Hello again, I'm CCP Rise here with Sir Squeebles, and we are in the middle of day 4 of the Alliance Tournament. We're about to see Waffles fight Mortuus, and this looks like a pretty brawly match. What do you think of what we have on the field, Squeebles?
We have a near mirror with 3 Ishtars and then 3 Vexors on both sides, but on the side of Mortuus, we've got 3 Vexor Navy issues, whereas Waffles has opted for 3 Vexors so that they can bring along an EOS. So a little more substantial tank on the Waffles team, but a little more DPS coming out of Mortuus. We'll have to see if lacking those links sacrifices too much tank.
Yeah, some kind of interesting variations on what mostly are extremely similar setups here, having the drone cruiser core with the Neros on both sides, but then differences in the support they've chosen, going with the Tristans on the Mortuus side, and then making sure to pick up that command ship on the Waffle side. Both teams came in at max range. We're underway now, and let's have a look at what drones they drop. It looks like Mortuus is dropping close range drones, but bouncers coming out of a lot of the Waffle ships.
That's definitely the better pick. You see now a drone horde of augmented hammerheads, some hobgoblins coming off the support as well, headed for Waffles, but it's going to take time for those to get there, whereas Waffles is already laying down some serious pain.
They are, but none of that pain so far, causing any real big problems for Mortuus. You don't actually see reps active towards any of their ships, but even without reps, they're doing just fine. You see a Neros just boosting back some shields. He's likely to be one of the first targets. No, they're going after an Ishtar. Mr. Paro looks like, and the Vexor Navy issue and Tonto. It's really interesting they've split here. I wonder why they're doing that.
Well, if you look, it looks like the Ishtars are damped out right now. I don't know how effective those unbonus damps probably off those Tristans are going to be, but it might force them to pick targets of opportunity, or maybe they're struggling with the assist mechanic. It could be a number of things.
In the meantime, the Geckos coming over from the Mortuus ships are starting to arrive on the Waffles side. You can see some damage starting to come in on their Ishtars, but for now, Logistics having no problem keeping them alive. While Mortuus struggling a bit. They have 3 ships in really low armor.
Yeah, Kirkra and the Oneros, though, doing a really good job of managing reps right now. He's kept everybody fairly comfortable, although Time Watcher in the VNI is now dropping pretty low. I would definitely start to get nervous. Those VNIs can fit a pretty substantial buffer tank, but without an EOS, the resist profile is not going to be ideal. He is going into structure now, and if they lose that, that's going to be a significant amount of damage that they've mitigated.
Yeah, he's just hanging on, and down he goes. First blood over to Waffles. In the meantime, actually, Waffles, shout out to my boy Sis7, about to go down first for Waffles in an Ishtar. He's hanging in there barely, catching graps from their Oneros, and actually pulling back now. So he was getting really, really low, but looks like he might be doing okay. And in the meantime, Mortuus still taking a lot of damage across several of their ships.
Yeah, and another VNI going down, and Tonto Mintot is now in low armor. I really don't think this Oneros is going to be able to keep him up. And those VNIs, they really do represent a huge chunk of damage. Now that their drones have finally made it over there, those Geckos are going to be really smashing these Ishtars. The Ishtars are doing a fairly good job on the Waffle side of trying to mitigate with some speed. And that can be effective against Geckos, but with the velocity bonus on the Vexor Navy hull, those Geckos are still going to be putting out some pretty serious hurt. And now both VNIs going down almost at the same time.
Yeah, and in the meantime, you also saw one of the Mortuus Ishtars disappear. That was actually a boundary violation. Alake Pissakin or something made it all the way out to 126k in his Ishtar. So that's definitely one of the risks you run when you're trying to kite around with these drone ships, and got a little too far away there.
It looks like Mortuus is sort of, it's like a synchronized swimming, only of disappointment, as this Ishtar of Mr. Paro is taking huge damage. Grash, Norlisk is also low. Waffles at this point is probably just having a laugh. They're splitting their damage and still killing these Ishtars. Looking at this now, I mean, obviously there are tons of factors at play. The drone choice, while I do agree with using Geckos on the VNI, the amount of time it took them to close that distance was huge. Mainly, in my mind, it comes down to this EOS pick on the Waffle side and how much sturdier the tanks are on those Ishtars. I mean, even the Vexors, which I didn't really see take a whole lot of damage, they weren't really threatened just because that EOS can so substantially buff up the tank. So I think that was a good investment to downgrade the Vexors and bring a command ship along.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that has a lot to do with their success here, and like you say, I think the drone choice is huge as well. The time it takes, the amount of damage that gets mitigated as the close range drones try to chase these kiting ships around the arena is really significant. and all that time the bouncers are just plugging away, able to switch targets quickly as they need to, and able to apply the entire time. Mortuus team getting just chewed up, finished off here in their synchronized disappointment, synchronized swim as it ends. So Nero's going down now, and just a couple ships left. And Waffles are actually going to get through this one without losing a single ship. Really good job by their logistics pilot as well. I feel like that should be said.
Yeah, they piloted well. The Oneros obviously on the Mortis side was under a little bit more pressure, and he handled it well based on just looking at it. But that's not to say Waffles didn't do the same. It just wasn't maybe as dramatic. Obviously, they brought a Dragoon, which is awesome. I immediately was cheering for them for that. But just real quick before this last Ishtar goes down, I mean, why opt for the Maledictions and not the Tristans, which can project drone damage along with the rest of your team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it depends on what they're expecting to use them for. If they're looking for more of a tackle role and less of a support, like damage role, the Maledictions look a little nicer. Or I don't know if they're looking to use them as anti-support against something like the Tristans. Maybe it's better because they're faster and have to put themselves not quite as close. But I'm not sure. It's a good question. And I was looking originally at the setups. Like the Tristans really had to do something to make a difference, because I felt like it was kind of the Tristans against an EOS somehow, even though it was really just the Vector Navy issue switch. But anyway, good job to Waffles. They win in really good fashion here. So that'll do it for this one. We'll be back in a few with Godfathers versus Afterlife.